Hello, Frequency. Today we have a flower, we have a beauty mogul, and we have a climate campaign. These are the ways that we're going to talk about the artist Georgia O'Keeffe because she's a woman that remained wild in a world that was built to tame her. We're going to look at this creative force. We're going to look at Georgia O'Keeffe through an ecofeminist lens. I'm going to tell you the story behind some of her paintings. I'm going to show you about intuitive guidance. And I'm going to show you a woman's life and career who helped the 20th century see. Yeah, if we take a look through her compositions, she shifted the paradigm in art. She shifted that paradigm because of how she was breaking boundaries in so many ways. She was breaking the boundary of the composition itself. She was no longer using that classical approach, horizon line, foreground, middle ground, background. She was exploding onto the canvas and breaking boundaries and having some flowers only show half or quarter, just leading the gaze for the viewer in a very different way than had been done before. She also helped shift the male gaze. She is also giving us a relationship to the land. This was an amazing pilgrimage I did to go and see Georgia O'Keeffe. In April, I went on a pilgrimage to visit what I was calling the old lady gang of the art world. I went to Through the Flower, which is a feminist nonprofit arts organization founded by Judy Chicago. I was talking with the foundation of Nancy Holt, and I went to the library of Georgia O'Keeffe. I went to the museums. I went to her homes, and I found myself the right place at the right time, being able to step in Georgia O'Keeffe's footsteps. I got to go to where she painted her mountain. I got to go and paint where she painted her tree, these flowers, and be able to look at the composition and the landscape of where she did. It was really amazing because one of the reasons that I wanted to do it is because I had learned that Georgia O'Keeffe was hired by the company at the time, Dole, to go to Hawaii. And I wanted to share this experience with the land with her in a different way because I had known that she was hired by Dole. And actually, even furthermore into Georgia O'Keeffe's career is she was an illustrator early in her career, too. I mean, a lot of people don't know that she was an illustrator or even that Andy Warhol was an illustrator beforehand. But while I was researching and digging into the longevity of her career and her lifestyle, I really found a lot of neat information. And I also discovered a little bit more about how the female frequency is speaking through me. Sometimes I feel like I'm just the radio, I'm the receiver of this information and getting these downloads, and then just wanting to be in that energy of the feminine all the time to share with you. Because you've if you haven't heard me before, the feminine is in a deficit. The loss of these female qualities is a psychological loss and it's an ecological loss for the safety of life on Earth, to really quote Lama Alane. So, as we look at Georgia O'Keeffe's career, we're going to just tune in here to a major hit that I had. Before I went on this pilgrimage, I was receiving downloads, and one of them was this incredible vision of being at the office of a cosmetic mogul, of a female cosmetic mogul. And at the time, I had no idea. I'd never really been interested in makeup really any time in my life. I mean, it really wasn't a passion. It's not really a passion of mine. Um, but I had this vision, and I mean, I could recreate this for a movie set in lickety split. I can remember everything down to the thread count of this uh, carpet and everything. I mean, this was quite a vision. So while I was at the library, Bonnie and I, the librarian, we were looking at all sorts of resources to find the paintings that she had done in Hawaii, and that was great. But then Bonnie handed me two things, and one of them was this super neat book, Under Equal or Equal Under the Sky. And as soon as I opened it, the very first page that I saw, oh my God, it just happened again. It is Georgia O'Keeffe sitting with beauty mogul Elizabeth Arden. And the paintings in the background. And I'll get you a detail of that. But can you imagine like my whole presence just changed? I knew that that vision that I had had was bringing me to that moment of seeing Elizabeth Arden talking to Georgia O'Keeffe. And I was like, what are they doing? I knew Elizabeth Arden had was a significant part of women's rights movements and doing her part. So during this research trip, I want to talk about a painting that's now at the Indianapolis Art Museum. It's titled Jimson Weed, and I'm going to give you the story behind the story because it is with Elizabeth Arden. In 1936, a major transaction happened between a female entrepreneur and a female entrepreneur. This is Elizabeth Arden and Georgia O'Keeffe. Elizabeth Arden commissioned O'Keeffe for a painting. This is now it will be the largest painting O'Keeffe had done in her career up until 1936. This painting is 70 by 83 and a half. Huge. So that's another way that O'Keeffe is changing how the 20th century sees. She is giving us very large compositions. She's also giving us something that is often overlooked, something seen as very well, giving us things that has been overlooked. So Arden commissioned O'Keeffe for this painting. She paid $10,000 for it, major significant thing during the Depression, 1936. I guess in today's, let's do the math. So in today's market, $10,000, 2025, some inflation. I mean, did anyone else get over 200 grand? I think that's where I'm at. But this was a major transaction happening. And here's the best part, because a lot of time these artists will be commissioned for something huge in their career, and then no one else really sees the work. Maybe it'll go in their home, maybe in a statement piece, or maybe in storage. Or this piece was commissioned because, like I was saying, Elizabeth Arden was a major advocate for women's rights issues. One of those issues with mental health, mental awareness. And Elizabeth Arden had a gymnasium where women got to go and work out. She had a gym designated to women. She also did a lot in mental health, but her whole identity for wanting to do the gymnasium is to help women feel good from the inside out. Now, she also had a major cosmetic line and got into the commercialization of that. She had lipstick campaigns, Montezuma Red and Victory Red, that were mirroring what was happening with her thoughts in the war and time of conflict. But that could be for another episode. So I just wanted to give you that story of seeing a painting and knowing the story behind the story. Significant for Georgia O'Keeffe's career, and it's not one that I have ever really. It's not one that I have ever heard, and I am a researcher of O'Keeffe. I've had a homage to Georgia O'Keeffe since mid '90s in my home. Skull, roses, it's beautiful. But this was a very special time to be happening, and for also for me to be able to had that intuitive guidance from the female frequency of helping me feel that connection that everybody's really dying for. I mean, you can have cars and some houses and those material goods, but it's really that connection that we're looking for, right? Everybody's looking for that connection that gives them that all over buzz that makes them feel so good, that abundant feeling, right? Okay, so now let's shift over to the campaign. Let's shift over to the climate campaign. O'Keeffe is also giving us her relationship with the land. What I also learned is that O'Keeffe, while she was traveling a ton. She traveled in cars, she traveled in airplanes. She took a road trip from New Mexico all the way down to Mexico to visit Frida Kahlo. She was traveling all over the world in airplanes. And to stay painting, she would bring some of these bones with her on these travels. And a lot of the paintings that you see later in her career were from these trips that she would take with the bones. And I wanted to add to just a little side note, fun pro tip on Georgia O'Keeffe. There's even a bone named after her because Ghost Ranch was a place that she did live for a while in New Mexico. It was a site of an archaeological dig. I mean, it's just amazing. And you too, if find yourself in the right time, you too can walk in the steps of Georgia O'Keeffe and see the mountain that she painted and see the tree that she did and see the flowers. Highly recommended. It's a great trip. All right. So while O'Keeffe was living at Ghost Ranch, she was painting a series called Sky Above Clouds, right? Because she was doing these travelings. She was up above the clouds. If you've been to New Mexico, yeah, you know what I'm talking about with the clouds and their puffiness. It's a beautiful sky there. So she approved in 1971. Mrs. Lippman was putting together a environmental campaign, and O'Keeffe approved a painting from her Sky Above Clouds series to be used in the poster campaign for the campaign that was called Save Our Planet, Save Our Air. So you can see how beautiful this painting is. Some of the paintings in the series were 12 feet long, some of them were 24 feet long, but I thought it was just a perfect representation of what that environmental campaign was doing, and to have O'Keeffe's stamp of approval on it just meant so much to me. I hope that others are inspired by this too. And if you know any other sisters that would be inspired by this episode, please do send it their way. Before we go, I just want to do a quick shout out to everybody that I met along my pilgrimage in New Mexico. I ended up finding a great conscious women's group that took me hiking on the full moon. We have a fabulous time. Iron Kitty, one of the women, took me on a day-long hike the next day, which was just so good for me because I'd been on the road making lots of decisions. It was nice just to get reconnected with the land again. I'm going to show you this ad that I saw while I was doing my research at the O'Keeffe Library. Thank you, Bonnie, for bringing out everything. And I think this ad is a really interesting to look at because it's what women at the time were being bombarded with in their pop culture towards our feminine products that we should be using or what they think that we should be using. Um, so I hope you have enjoyed this look into Georgia O'Keeffe's life a little bit differently through the lens of the campaign, Save Our Planet, Save Our Air, and a little bit more about what I call her flower frequency paintings, because a flower can help change the perspective.